Sable is an open-world exploration adventure game where you play a young girl who's trying to find her place in the world. She's part of a nomadic tribe that sends children off on their gliding, a rite of passage where you explore a vast desert, help people with various tasks, and ultimately come back with a lot of stories to tell and hopefully a newfound purpose in life. Sable was inspired and is therefore often compared to Zelda Breath of the Wild. And while it does share some similar features like open-world exploration, stamina-based climbing, and the ability to glide, I would argue that in its minimalistic approach and with its heavy focus on experience over gameplay, it's actually much closer to games like Journey and Abzu. In Sable, nothing can hurt you. There is no combat, no fall damage, and no abilities apart from gliding. Instead, the core of the game is exploration, with basic platforming, simple puzzles, and various quests, many of which boil down to fixing or fetching stuff. In the first few hours, I was completely immersed in this beautiful world and eager to explore every corner of it. The desert world of Midden looks stunning with its clean, cel-shaded art style, heavily inspired by French artist Mobius. Sable also has a very special way of differentiating between day and night. During the day, everything is vibrant and colorful, but the more time passes, the more everything fades to gray. It's a very nice and unique experience. Although after a while I began to wish for the nights to be shorter, so I could experience every location in its full glory. On your gliding you ride your trusty companion, a hoverbike called Simone, through endless dunes, canyons and forests. And often you will see something in the far distance that sparks your interest. It might be a shipwreck, a mysterious shrine, an ancient well, or a city full of people. Unfortunately though, these interesting locations are surrounded by a lot of emptiness, which is fine at first because you will be admiring the art style, but after a while it gets monotonous. Everything in a biome looks the same, there's nothing to do in those barren lands, and worst of all, riding your bike just isn't fun. Simone tends to be very wobbly, and even though you can't fall off or damage her, the bumpy rides feel awkward. Overall, I wish the map would be a lot smaller, or filled with more stuff to explore. Exploring the various sites, on the other hand, is very engaging. You can climb any non-metallic surface and check your surroundings from a vantage point. And if your stamina allows you to get high enough, you can often see something moving in the distance. Similar to the Koroks in Breath of the Wild, you can find chums in Sable, cute wiggly worms that increase your stamina. Apart from that, you can find new clothes, insects for quests, pots filled with money, and scrap to sell. On your journey, you will also come across people of different occupations like guards, merchants, machinists, or cartographers, some of which will send you off on quests and reward you with badges of their profession. Once you collect a certain amount of badges, you could call it a day and end your journey, which is a very interesting concept for a video game. Depending on how much you want to explore, Sable can take anywhere between 6 and 20 hours. I did spend 20 hours in this world and explored everything there is, but I have to say I was often disappointed with the level of detail. Nomadic tribes, abandoned spaceships, huge mountable beetles and gigantic skeletons. Sable offers a solid foundation for a fascinating world and story. A lot of what you see raises questions, but unfortunately, most remain unanswered. I felt like whenever I got interested in the world, the game just had nothing more to tell me. Instead, it wanted me to move on and come to my own conclusions. This might work for some people, but it did not for me. A good example for an exploration game with an excellent world building is Subnautica. I won't go into detail here because I already did a review on it. But the more you explore of the fascinating underwater world, the more you learn about the planet and its story. This incentive to explore to get to the bottom of things is something I completely gave up on in Sable after a while. And that's a shame because clearly a lot of thought went into the different locations and civilization. The dialogues are very well written and manage to make each person feel distinct and memorable, which is quite remarkable considering the fact that you never see their faces. It's sad to see so much potential for a captivating story and an immersive lived-in world go to waste. Up to this point, I would have still recommended this game to people who are looking for a beautiful, relaxing game, but in its current state, I can't. The amount of bugs I encountered in Sable made it almost impossible to enjoy the game. First of all, there are many visual glitches. Especially in cramped spaces, of which there are many, the camera has a hard time focusing on the protagonist and tends to cut through structures. Sometimes the light abruptly changes. There are flickering shadows on the walls, solid structures that can be walked through. Some plants morph in a way that makes them stretch across the room. Foliage tends to pop in right beside you. You sometimes get stuck while jumping to a platform, and some animals and plants somehow learned how to levitate. Additionally, even if you meet the recommended system requirements, you might still experience micro-stuttering, and the frame rate is all over the place, at times dropping down to 20 frames per second. But it doesn't stop there. You have the ability to call your bike, which, considering the size of the map, is a crucial feature, but 90% of the time Simone never shows up, and for the longest time I wondered why, until I caught her in the act. She gets stuck everywhere, and the only way to free her is to use the fast travel option. Other than that, tutorials keep repeating. You can wear different clothes, but whenever I exited out of the game, it reset mine to the first option. You can customize Simone, but with the controller, I wasn't able to browse or select colors. The same thing occasionally happened when I wanted to choose a dialogue option or buy something from a merchant. Sometimes I was able to use my keyboard and mouse instead, while other times I had to restart the game. But all of this is nothing compared to the worst and most consistent bug I experienced. For large parts of my playthrough, there were multiple songs or sound effects playing at the same time. It was unbearable, and the only thing that solved this was restarting the game, but it never took long for it to be triggered again. Just listen to this. I would have loved to enjoy the beautiful soundtrack by Japanese Breakfast, but because of this issue and other audio bugs like stuttering, I often set my headphones aside and waited for it to end. It blows my mind that this game wasn't released as an early access title, because this amount of bugs is impossible to overlook. The developers are currently working on a patch, and I really hope they will be able to iron this all out. I hate being that harsh on an indie project, and I can only imagine how hard it must be to develop an open-world game with a small core team of just 2 people. But I also want to be honest and strongly advise you to wait for a patch. With its focus on exploration, simple puzzles, and its minimalistic, action-free approach, Sable isn't for everyone. It speaks to the kind of gamer who just wants to relax and explore a gorgeous world at their own pace. The game spreads the beautiful message that the journey is much more important than the destination. But Sable still has a long way to go before it reaches the level of polish that makes this journey enjoyable. Thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below.